Everybody has an origin story. This one's mine. I always loved the Toast Man. I just wish I knew him a little bit better. When I was 7, I lived about a block from the lake in Burlington, near Spencer Smith Park. It was me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. Every Sunday, we would have breakfast together. We would make breakfast together. It was kind of the only time that we really ever had to connect with each other fully, because my dad was always hard at work or hard at play. Now, when I say that we made breakfast together, my mom made 97% of breakfast. My sister and I, in our pajamas, we just got caught kind of underfoot in our little galley kitchen. And my dad, 3%. My dad was the toast man. His job, make the toast. I gotta tell you, it was good toast. A little bit about my dad. He is 5'6". Well, he's 5'4" now, in his 70s. And he's got a little bit of he's got a lot of short man syndrome. In his 30s, he actually became a bodybuilder, right? 5'6" tall, 5'6" wide. Incredible shape. He was really built out of iron. And the thing is that emotionally, he was also built out of iron. Now, I didn't know this until years and years later, but he had a really, really rough ride as a kid. Like, he literally watched his mother walk out of the hotel room he was in and walk away from him. I don't know how you come back from something like that. The thing about my dad and being the toast man is it seemed to be an appropriate name for a couple of reasons. One reason was, well, he could make the toast, but he could have made all of breakfast, but he didn't push that far. And then when it came to emotion, he could have connected with me a bit better, but he could only give me glimpses. Like toast is glimpses of breakfast, his emotional engagement was glimpses of what could be possible. I remember when I was 5 years old, he took me outside and a little plastic bat and taught me how to hit a baseball. But he didn't have time to teach me how to catch a baseball because he had to go to work. My dad worked in the meat industry, started in slaughterhouses and worked his way up over the years. When I was 9, the AGO actually had an amazing exhibit for King Tut. They brought in the sarcophagus, the death mask, and I was over the moon. I wanted to see this so badly. And the day I told my dad about that night when he came home from work, he woke me up. And he had brought me a copy of, I think it was Maclean's. And you open it up, and there is all of the story. But we never actually went to the exhibit. He just didn't have time. My favorite day of the year was every August. We would go to the CNE, the X. I have been to the X. I love the X. I've been there 70 times over the year. You don't get a fabulous body like this without going to the X 70 times, okay? It was amazing. We would go, my sister, my dad, and I. And my dad, because at that time he worked at Shopsy's, which was the big meat company at the time, right? He had a little card. And the little card got us free food in the food building. Amazing. The rides were incredible. He would buy us passes for the day. And I remember being 12 years old and being on the swings that go around and feeling the wind going through what was then hair. And listening to Madness Is Our House and thinking life can't get more perfect than this. And then, of course, there were the games. My dad was epic at games. If you could shoot it, if you could throw it, if you could drop it, my dad would win it. I remember one time, You've seen these people on the X grounds, right? Walking away with all the prizes. I have a 5'6" teddy bear on my shoulders. My sister is struggling with her 5'6" teddy bear. And my dad is carrying a trophy that is taller than my sister. Amazing day. Best day of the year. The problem is what happened the next day. And the next day is I realize, I have 364 more days until I get that joy again, until I get that glimpse of my dad. And in years in future, I would come to forgive him for who he was, because that's who he was. There was nothing really to forgive. You understand their journey. But what ended up happening was emotion. Emotional intelligence, emotional engagement became my currency. It became the most valuable thing that I had. I choose my friends today based on the ability to have conversations with me, deep psychological conversations about how emotion works. I am a communications professional. I do storytelling coaching. I am a TED level speaker, all because of that level of emotion. I've written a book, 2/3 of a book, called Misconnected, about how we connect with one another. And I made an unconscious promise. One day, when I would have kids, I would be that guy. I would be the guy they could depend on. I would be the safe space that they could talk to. That was going to be my whole thing. And emotion continues to become the most important thing that I do in the world today. And that is when the phone rang. When I was 30 years old, I became a parent for the first time. My son, his name is Cabot, C-A-B-O-T. Just like John Cabot, the discoverer of Newfoundland, we looked it up to make sure that he didn't do anything wrong over the years and all that sort of stuff. Very important stuff. In the great cosmic irony of the world, Cabot is as stoic and introverted as my father was. Thanks. He's also gifted in the STEM world. When he was young, we thought he had Asperger's, and he actually did get the diagnosis. But when he got to high school, he started to excel. And the grades went up and up and up and up. And it was incredible. It was incredible, to see the kid with grades of 90s and all that sort of stuff. In fact, when he finished high school, he applied and got into every program that he wanted to get into, including one of the most exclusive engineering programs in the world, in the country for sure. It's nanotechnology engineering at Waterloo. Yeah, the little chips on your computers, that's what this is all about. I know, I had the exact same reaction that you do. Pride, fear. The fear was, Cabot was one of those kids that had incredible natural talent and no skill as a student. Could skate by in high school and get those high grades. I actually had a radio show at the time on Saga 960, and I used the entire summer of that radio show as personal therapy to talk about, I am afraid that this kid is going to do what a lot of kids do, which is they excel in high school and they blow up in first-year university. Talked about it enough that I think my co-host quit. So I take him off to Waterloo. And taking him to Waterloo, it's a beautiful day, right? It's a beautiful sunny day. We unload, we get him into residence. And as we finish, the clouds start to get darker and it begins to rain. This actually happened. And as I'm thinking to myself, I hope he does all right, I'm handing him my umbrella and I'm watching him walk into residence. I'm thinking to myself, this is a threshold. This is the last moment in your life where you're going to have this boy as part of your daily life. And enjoy that for a second. But of course, the fear starts to rise. Now, the next couple of weeks are great. The next maybe 6 weeks are great. I call him a couple of times a week. He's sharing with me all the great stuff that's happening in engineering. But then the phone calls get less and less and less until by about mid-November, I haven't talked to him in a month. That's the longest time that I've never talked to the kid. I call him, nothing. I text him. He doesn't even leave me on read. He doesn't actually even read the messages in the first place. I have to call his even more stoic roommate and say, is he still alive? Apparently, he's still alive. So I wait. One day, early in December, I look at my phone, and there it is, Cabot. Hey, Cabot, how's it going? Not so great. Now, it takes me a little while in the phone call to be able to tease it out of him. But what I am able to determine is things have gone disastrously wrong. Sometime in the middle of November on a Monday, he doesn't go to class. He doesn't go on Tuesday either, or Wednesday. And then it's a week later, and this kid who doesn't have a skill set to be able to deal with all this sort of stuff is just shaking in bed all day, every day. Now, I had a choice here. I could go full-on 1970s dad and say, you just wasted 25 grand and you want my compassion? Or I could go the dad who had learned from his own dad and say, my boy's in trouble. I need to go to him. And as I pulled the story out of him, what I realized was maybe he could save it. Maybe he's got 50s and can get to 60s, everything's going to be okay. And I realized pretty quickly he has 20s. It's a first time for everything. I'm pulling my boots on halfway through the phone call at the front door. And he says, and I got to tell you, this means so much to me. He says to me, hang on, come tomorrow. I have one more exam tomorrow. It's a suicide mission. He's not going to pass the course. But the sense of honor and duty that he has, that still sticks with him today, that stuck with me. And I thought, okay, no problem. So next day, I drive out to Waterloo. I walk up to residence, I knock on the door. He opens the door. And I do the only thing you can do, because there's really no choice here, is I put my arms around him. I looked at the kid and I thought, you need me, and I'm here. I'm here for you. We went to Moose Winooski's, which is a sports bar outside of Waterloo. It has the best damn chicken wings that you probably ever will have, right? And then Cabot went on and did his thing. He did the exam, he did the next exam. That moment is the moment where I feel like I became a real dad. Kid's 20 years old, I became a real dad then. Why? Because I feel like our kids have this moment where they're gonna need you. And you need to be there for them. I see that with my other two kids as well. I have a 19-year-old who is struggling mightily with her mental health right now. Today, we had a long conversation today, and all I can do is listen. I have another kid who is courageously transitioning to become my wonderful son. And all I can do is create space for that person. I love that idea. When I look at Cabot, I look at a kid who kind of dropped, but started to figure it out. The next year he went back. He actually went on the rescue program. He went back to Waterloo in nanotechnology engineering. This was the pandemic year. So he's home. I can check in with him, and he's letting me check in with him. That's the difference. Now, he blew up again. Didn't work out for him. But we talked to each other as adults at that time. And he told me that I was kind of his accountability partner, that I would be the person that he would talk to and ask and keep nudging him. At the end of next spring, Cabot will graduate from York University in pure math. Last week, he asked me to help him with his graduate applications. That's the difference. Today, in the great breakfast of life, I have become the toast man, except I can make a whole lot more. Thank you.